What's up, everybody? Now, if you've seen any of my other videos, you might have wondered at some point, this dude really doesn't like religion. What's the deal? Now, to be honest, this is a valid question to ask in light of my attitude toward theists. I think it deserves a response and an explanation. Why do I care about naturalism and science so much? If it's led me to stop believing in God, why do I go so hard against theists? The mature thing, surely, would be to quietly update my non-belief and move on with my life, not bringing too much attention to myself, right? Nope. Here's the thing. Since I've shed the dead weight of my religion, I've come to realize how freeing it is to choose my own purpose. The spell has been broken. There's no going back. There isn't an innate purpose given to us by naturalism. Reality just is. However, in the context of being human, we have a lot to lose and a lot to gain depending on if we can work together in this reality. So the purpose I'm choosing is one of humanism and the search for truth in this reality. No one lives in this world and doesn't get affected by those around them or affect others. We live in this world together and have a moral responsibility to others and ourselves. In this video, I'm going to attempt to show you two things. First, we're going to look at some misconceptions of how abandoning faith will jeopardize society and morality. Second, we're going to look at the seemingly benign self-help aspect of religion and how it actually subverts instead of supports. Now, before I dive into the first topic, I need to discuss some disclaimers. I've lived on both sides and I can see the bad logic when someone points to an exception of a rule and then attributes those characteristics to the whole. For example, for Christians, it could look like a non-believer shouting, "Some religious nut job just shot up a bunch of people at a gay bar. Down with religion." This is a ridiculous line to take. I've read the Bible, and just because God murders gay people doesn't mean he condones others too. Most Christians aren't gun-wielding lunatics, just like evil dictators aren't good examples of atheists. They have to get you to stop believing in God so they can replace your value system with their own. That helps to subvert and control people. Atheism was a means to the end for dictators, just like how hateful gun wielders use religion to fuel their hate and violence. I don't want to focus on the exceptions to the rule, but instead the overall contribution to society from the normal law-abiding citizens from each camp. So without further ado, I call forth our first bit of evidence. There was a groundbreaking study in 2013 on religious belief and social well-being that was published in the Journal of Religion and Society. It compared 18 prosperous democracies from the US to New Zealand. Author Gregory S. Paul quietly demolished the myth that faith strengthens society. Top of the class in both atheism and good behavior come the Japanese. Over 80% accept evolution, and fewer than 10% are certain that God exists. Despite its size, over 100 million people, Japan is one of the least crime-prone countries in the world. It also has the lowest rates of teenage pregnancy of any developed nation. Next in line are the Norwegians, British, Germans, and Dutch. At least 60% accept evolution as fact, and fewer than 1 in 3 are convinced that there is a deity. There is little teenage pregnancy, although the Brits, with over 40 pregnancies per 1,000 girls a year, do twice as badly as the others. Both sides agree that, for the most part, teen pregnancy is an indicator of social problems and morality issues. But there are much more serious indicators. Homicide rates in Britain, Norway, Germany, and Netherlands are also low, about 1 to 2 victims per 100,000 people a year. At the other end of the scale comes America. Over 50% of Americans believe in God, and only 40% accept some form of evolution. Many believe it had a helping hand from a deity. The US has the highest rate of teenage pregnancy and homicide rates, and they're at least 5 times greater than any in Europe and 10 times higher than Japan. All this information should be alarming to theists. It shows that religion has a strong correlation to doing more harm than good, much less the benign 50-50 rates that one would expect. Now, in the study, it points out that this isn't firm evidence. There could be cultural differences between the countries that might be an indicator of discrepancies. However, it is an extreme correlation. More studies have been done showing the same correlation. In America, only 4% of the population is self-identified atheists. However, there are 716 prisoners incarcerated per 100,000 people, compared to that of Norway, who has about 80% of self-reported atheists, but only 71 prisoners per 100,000. So what do these numbers mean? Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask a Christian here in the US, they would probably explain it away, saying that the devil is tempting them more because of their beliefs. I've heard people say things like this before in churches I've attended. But to people who don't believe in God or the devil, find that excuse wanting. What is a theory as to the real reason why theists aren't as moral in society? Well, J. Bess has one. Quote, "All believers learn that God holds them responsible for their actions. So far so good, but for many, belief absolves them of other responsibilities. Consciously or subconsciously, those who are born again or chosen have diminished respect for others who do not share their sect or faith. Convinced that only the Bible offers truth, they lose their intellectual curiosity and their ability to reason. Their priority becomes not the world they live in, but themselves." End quote. I think this is an interesting and likely true theory. Something real is happening in the minds of Christians that is helping them be more immoral. Remember, it's not fair to say that they're the exception to the rule because these studies were blind and had no agenda. So given the facts, I think it would be a reasonable thing to believe that for the time being, that the idea of morality in society crumbling without religion is a false assumption and is simply not true. If you disagree, I suggest looking into it yourself. Point 2. What about the good things religion does for people? I say, if you look intently and carefully, you can see that there are better ways to deal with the loss of a loved one, depression, anxiety, anger, drug addiction, and greed. If people sought out professional help instead of going to their pastor, a 3,000-year-old book, or clinging to well-worded platitudes, they would actually get better instead of just beating down the symptoms in the short term only to have it explode out later. Some people in religion think it's wrong to use prescription drugs for mental conditions because they think it would be a lack of faith otherwise. No wonder there's more crime committed by the religious. But no, this is much deeper. A well-hidden problem than just people don't seek professional help. It's an indoctrination in the truest form. It's like a drug addiction, but much more powerful and dangerous. For Christians, it starts with the problem of evil. They have to first convince you that you're worth nothing and deserve to go to hell. Then once you have accepted this lie, they can sell you on the saving grace of Jesus. You aren't going to buy what they're selling if you don't think you need it. Try to look at it from a third party's point of view, like aliens studying Christians. You would observe that they speak of needing God and how they're not worthy without Him. They have moments of joy and emotion, a form of a spiritual high, if you will. But when they mess up and sin, they feel guilty because of cognitive dissonance. They're told that sinning is of the devil, so when they sin, they feel very uncomfortable. Then they are forced to go back to God and accept His grace. If they don't do that, they're afraid that they won't feel the highs of God's presence again, let alone saving. It's no coincidence that religion relies on music and dance and emotion for its effect. For the very same reason, people enjoy secular concerts and music. But religious people think that God made us to have these feelings to worship Him. And the devil is just abusing how we were made to tempt us to enjoy other forms of music and dance. Maybe we evolved in a way that dance and music are a pattern that we identify with because we have a literal heart beating inside us, giving us an appreciation of beat and rhythm. Don't you see what's happening? The emotion people feel in religion is just like drug addicts. First, somebody has to convince you that you need this drug, but you aren't going to buy it unless you think you need it. So they remind you of how bad your life is. Then you realize you may as well give it a go. After a few tastes, you're hooked. You can't live without it. People that are addicted think that they need the drug. People that aren't addicted can clearly see what it is doing to them mentally and physically. It is making their life much worse in nearly any way that you could appraise it. But the addict is always thinking of the few highs that they've had and use that to justify all the garbage that they're putting themselves through. Now imagine being a drug addict with a ton of friends and loved ones that are encouraging you to do what you're doing and do the same drugs as you. You would feel safe, comfortable, justified, normal, and supported. Then someone from outside your group of friends tries to explain to you that what you and your friends are doing is not only hurting yourselves, but also harming society, education, science, and causing violence all over the world. You wouldn't care. You're addicted and have a ton of people affirming your actions and supporting you all the way. Everyone in your group would try to dismiss that notion and paint a picture that puts them at the center of understanding and truth. That is a tall hill to climb for the person who isn't addicted and sees the damage that it's doing. Should he walk away just because it would be hard to convince people what they're doing is bad for everyone involved? Nope. He could post some videos to YouTube and hope that people will start to pay attention and spread the word. I do feel that I need to justify my actions a little bit. My family is not one that shares my belief for the most part, which is sad. And so they wonder, why am I trying to hurt them? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And it's because it's a lot bigger than just our family. It's something that affects the entire world. So I'm not telling you this to draw sympathy or just to defend myself, but at least understand why it's important to me. It affects everyone in the world. We're talking about humanity. We're talking about the future. A lot of people have asked me outside of the videos, why do I pick on Christians? It's because that's what I know. I majored in religion and philosophy. I grew up in the church, and I worked very hard to understand it as best I could. Not on a superficial level, but on a very deep level. And that's what I know. It's the most popular, most self-proclaimed religion in the world. So it's got the biggest target on its back. Maybe in the future I can do more videos on specific religions other than Christianity, but for the most part, everything that I talk about with the Christians applies to a lot of the other religions, with some exceptions. I don't say that to ruffle the feathers of everybody else, but there is a lot of similarities between these beliefs and some philosophies that don't even claim to be religions. So be careful, test things yourself, do research yourself, and keep asking these questions of me and keeping me honest. I want to do a good job and make sure that I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's. All right, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.